Welcome, everyone. Now, a few days ago, I was chatting with some friends, and the conversation came up of why Apple doesn't have a gaming console. And I mean, you can argue all day and all night as to why that is. These are essentially my opinions. And what if Apple did have a gaming console? How would it look like? Specs wise, at least, would it be a success? What will be inside? Just thoughts, games, etc. So this is my thoughts of Apple and what a gaming console would look like for Apple. So number one, design. So we all know that Apple has a very standard type of design, I want to say, to be polite. So it's nothing really fancy, it's something very simple, yet compact and thin. So looking at their existing quote unquote gaming console, because they do have something for gaming, it's essentially their Apple TV. And I have to think that it will look a little bit more simple, not futuristic, no bells and whistles, closer to the Apple TV than I would say a PS5. This is what I would be expecting from an Apple gaming console. That's number one. Specs wise, the first thing that would definitely stand out here, because you want them to be able to compete in the market, will probably be their M1 chip. I think that kind of goes without saying. They went away from Intel. They've had great success. It's been performing spectacularly right now, right? So it's one of the best performing chips at the moment. I mean, you can always find better, I guess, but depends how much you want to pay for it, right? So price and value, their M1 chip is absolutely phenomenal. Looking at memory and terabytes, when it comes to a hard drive, I don't think they're going to go anything too crazy there. Probably about, you know, 1 to 1.5 terabytes of space, and for memory, anywhere between 20 to 25 gigabytes GDDR6. Now, the reason why I'm actually saying that they're gonna have a little bit more than the existing gaming consoles, if this product actually existed on the market right now, it's essentially because I look at Apple nowadays and they're not an innovation company like they used to be. And you guys may not agree with me. This is my opinion. There's nothing innovation about any of their products. It's essentially, let's take what we have, try to perfect it. And there's nothing really wrong with that. And add some more things to kind of do some overkill so we can charge a little bit more. Like they're known for that right now. They're not really known to let's create something new like when Steve Jobs was around. So that being said, if the gaming console did exist right now, how it would look like? Well, I do think they would add that overkill of space and memory. That's my opinion. Since Apple does have amazing graphics, I mean, let's face it, they're known for that, right? I do think that they can kind of go two ways here. Either they would use one of their existing chips from, let's say, their Mac Pros or iPad Pros to put in this gaming console, and it's gonna look phenomenal. Maybe to save a little bit on the price, they probably would go for the same type of AMD Radeon graphics card, the same as the PS5 and the Xbox Series X has, just to kind of save on, again, a little bit on the pricing with their ray tracing. If they did want to go more luxurious, I think one of their GPUs would be absolutely spectacular. The graphics would be incredible. This is their bread and butter, right? I mean, this is what they're known for. Networking, Bluetooth. I doubt they're gonna do anything significant there, anything wow. Because I mean, it's pretty basic stuff nowadays. Everybody expects to have more or less the same type of wireless network card and Bluetooth. It's nothing really out of the ordinary. Here's where I think is it's going to do a little bit more of a change compared to the other gaming consoles. So any and every type of system, computer, anything that Apple does have at this moment, there's no CD or DVD drive, right? They're pretty much eliminated. Somebody can correct me here if they have seen anything in in recent times. I have not. Not that I'm the biggest Apple fan, to tell you the truth, but which leads me to believe: are they really going to go that route of actually including it in their gaming console when none of the rest of their products actually have any type of physical data, right? Are they really going to add a DVD when you can't really take that and put it in your iMac, for example? I think not. I believe that if Apple did have a gaming console right now, it would probably be more virtual, right? Like just digital, I should say, not virtual. What am I talking about? So more digital, right? So it's something that you would probably want to upload or you know or stream maybe directly from Apple site, directly those games. And one of the biggest examples that I have to give from that is looking at their existing Apple Arcade. So they do have some type of games, you can call it right now. I mean, it's absolutely nothing spectacular, let's face it, but they're still there. And from what I see is okay, they may not have the biggest fan base, but it's still doing relatively well. And this is something that you kind of just stream, and it's working. It didn't work for Google Stadia, but it is working for them, right? Not the same type of market, granted, but it is working for them. So fantastic. So this is something that I think they're probably going to continue doing. They're not going to go into any type of physical games, but they will actually go through more digital, more streaming, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not sure if the gaming community is there yet, but for sure, this is something that could be definitely an option, right? If you guys are actually curious as to so far what I'm actually basing this information on, is the fact that they already, like I mentioned before, already have some type of gaming console. It's essentially their Apple TV, which, yeah, I would hardly call that a gaming console altogether, but they are using their Apple TV to be able to play games, and they are all streaming it. So the design of it, the specs of it, based on their current the current gaming consoles. This is how I'm looking at it, and a little bit more on their history, right? What they have been doing so far. One big advantage that Apple will have, or I should say, two big advantages. The first one would be their their interface, the user interface. So they already have a nice user interface when you're looking at this, you know, TV TV slash gaming console that already exists on the market right now on their Apple TV. So the user interface is actually very nice, very simple to navigate, very interesting. You can find yourself around very easily, and there's not a lot of bells and whistles. Do you really need all that extra stuff that the PS5 or the Xbox Series X will bring? Some may like it, but will it really be the difference maker? As a gamer myself, I'm not really sure that this is gonna make the biggest impact. So they already have a nice user interface, so not a lot of work to do there. And second of all, despite the fact that I'm not the biggest Apple fan, they do have a pretty huge ecosystem, right? I mean, who has not heard about Apple's iMacs, iPhones, iPads? their watches, their music. It's, you know, they're up there, right? They're one of the biggest and strongest companies in the world, and chances are you have or have owned an Apple product in the past. One of the big things that I think that they'll be able to excel is, so as you're plugging your controller, because it runs out of battery, so now you have to plug it in. You're plugging into the system. You have to try to go around and find yourself an outlet, a cable, something for you to be able to still play. And you know, some controllers, especially if you go for the elite ones, it takes a long time to load, especially if you have more than one controller, and chances are you might have if you're investing in an elite controller. It takes a long time to load. So the Thunderbolt USB, this is gonna be such a difference maker. Such a difference maker. You can just plug it in, which I don't see why, if they did have an Apple console, why they wouldn't go with their extremely fast USB ports. So definitely plug that in, couple of minutes, you actually have your controller that is ready to go. All this time, I've actually been talking about the Apple TV. Here's another thing that I think they're actually going to do with it, and I don't see why not since it exists right now. If they're going to do a gaming console, they're probably going to include the Apple TV in there as well. Every other company has done it. Xbox Series X, especially namely the PlayStation 5, including their own movies that you can go and purchase. Um, Actually, I would say more on the PS4 side. So the PS5 still remains to see if they're going to go all the way with that. But I don't see why Apple, since it exists already, why they wouldn't include that Apple TV app, so you can be able to go there and watch movies with it. Definitely a very smart thing for them to do, to include it in their whole ecosystem. And for sure, you're going to have that extra option to buy that Apple Remote extra, right? So I doubt they're going to give it to you. It's going to be something additional that you're going to have to go in and buy. Extra money, more revenue for them. Now, here's where it gets tricky for them. Their controller. So the controller, this is where they don't have experience. You're looking at the current controller, what they have right now, and what they're using right now. It's a third-party controller, right? It's nothing huge. It's nothing interesting. It's not bad, but this is where they have no experience, right? The PlayStation and Xbox, they know exactly what customers want when it comes to gaming. So I find this a point that they actually might suffer a little bit. But here's the tricky part. Nobody ever said that you need a first party controller. We kind of like expect it. It's the norm, so to speak, right? So what they have right now, the Nimbus Plus controller, to be able to play the Apple arcades on your TV, on your Apple TV, sorry. This is what they're suggesting. And if you actually look closer, they're even telling you, if you want, you can also buy or add one of your existing Xbox controllers. So when this first came out, I, I s- I vividly remember showing you a picture of your PlayStation and your Xbox controller that you can actually either A, buy from them, or B, just include. Now, I couldn't find any reference from that, but I do remember seeing it there. So it's really funny how they're actually telling you, if you want, just go grab any other controller that you want and just bring it over. Bring it over. It's not a problem. You can essentially play it. They did remove it right now. If anybody has any information and they want to add that in, please be my guest. But yeah, third party controls is essentially what they have right now. And again, nobody really said that you have to have a first party controller, but it is a norm. It is expected. I do want some of those bells and whistles that the PS5 controller has when I'm playing a game that actually connects and syncs well to the system and the games. As a gamer, this is one of the biggest things that I do look at it. Yeah, I really do. Will it make a difference? For some people. Not for everybody, but for some people, they will look at that. One place that I think that Apple will go into if they did have a gaming console right now is VR. And the reason why I'm saying that is because at the moment, there has been quite a few leaks, and there has been some announcements hinting for that those Apple glasses going over more virtual reality, things like that, which is jaw dropping. One of their first, I I wouldn't necessarily call it innovation products, but pretty up there as well, pretty close to it. So going through that amazing technology, they might actually step in and implement it towards the Apple console, assuming the Apple console would be successful if it existed right now, today. So if they do that, it's going to give the PS5 a run for its money, and they have to step up their game a lot if they don't want to lose all their market shares. A lot. The VR is amazing. It's nowhere near perfect, especially when you're looking at the first generation on the PS4. There's so many cables. For me, it's unplayable. I don't know if anybody else would agree with me there. It's not something that I really liked. Now, with that being said, this is how the system would look like, I believe. But is it realistic? Can it actually make it to the market? Well, yeah, definitely. It's realistic. It'll make it to the market. There's people that are definitely going to buy it. And I'll be honest, I'll probably buy it too if it's not over the PS5 and Xbox Series X price, which Apple, knowing Apple, they might try to charge a lot more for it, maybe a good $100 to $200 more just because it's Apple. But if they are smart and they put it close to the PS5 and Xbox Series X, then I think everybody will really be more enticed to actually buy it, especially gamers, which this is where your your revenue is gonna come, right? There's no point of somebody saying, I'm an Apple freak, I'm gonna buy it just for buying it because I love Apple." Well, what are you gonna do with it if you're not a gamer, right? So the Apple product, definitely realistic and definitely can, and I think eventually will happen. Now, final comments. Will they be successful? So that's a tricky one. So I know I forgot to mention a few things, and when I say forgot, is I pretty much omitted. I just chose not to include them in because I wanted this video to be a reasonable video and not an hour or 2 hour long video going through all the specs, uh, you know, potential successes or failures that could affect this hypothetical gaming console. One thing that stands out is, the 3D sound, Dolby, what else? External hard drive space, like how would they expand upon it? There's a lot of extra things that can and will be included in this hypothetical gaming console. But at the end of the day, the most important things that I believe I did include, and will it be successful? So, one thing that Google Stadia showed us is that without having first person games, it is a little bit more difficult. There's nothing really to attract you to this console, this gaming platform. Another thing is streaming games. Yes, there will be a huge success. Not right now. I know Apple's having success because they're aiming for more of a niche market, and it's something that's more on the side than something that appeals to the gaming community. And at the same time, Google's data really showed us that trying to buy those rights to have exclusive games without actually understanding what the gamers want is not necessarily going to bring you success. So, an Apple gaming console, will it have success? Yes, up to a certain extent because it's Apple. So, there will be people that will buy it just for buying it, just because it's Apple. And it almost feels like there's a prestige thing going on there more than an actual gaming community that wants to sit down and invest money on buying games and monthly subscriptions and so on and so forth. But in the long run, those are the people that actually are going to invest money, not the people that will buy the console one time and say, well, here you go, I bought it, I have an Apple console. So it will be successful up to a certain extent. Will it reach the same success that the Xbox and the PlayStation has had over the past years after having generations, well, console generations of not the. So will it have the same success that the PlayStation and the Xbox has had over the past couple of years after learning from their mistakes and understanding what gamers want?